everybody? Where's York here for York Talk, everything sales and business. We're just connecting everywhere we go. So we're on Facebook Live here, so g'day all the viewers out there. We're on Instagram Live here, so g'day all the Instagram followers. We're recording over there. So again, congratulations on jumping on this York Talk episode. And first, just want to say, first of all, thanks so much. Last week was an absolute killer episode. We had, I don't know the exact stats from last week, but I was just looking at just alone on the Facebook statistics, which obviously you get some great insights with Facebook now. In the last 12 weeks, we've had over 54,000 minutes of Facebook, people listening, watching on Facebook, and over 150,000 views. So congratulations. I want to say thank you. That's just in the last 3 weeks. in the last 3 months. And, we only started this. This is our 17th episode. And we get great feedback from everyone who sends in a direct message or sends us an email. So I just want to say thanks to everyone who's out there and who's watching and who's sharing and liking. It means a lot to us here at Sales Coaching International. And we love coming to you each week. So this week we're here on a Thursday. Usually it's a Tuesday at 1 o'clock. This week I was with a fantastic RSL up in Maribor. We're doing some great training on the customer experience and looking at the gap between the customer experience and what experience and service they receive. So we did some training up there, which was really great. I want to say thanks to the Maribor RSL up there. They're absolutely fantastic. So if you're driving through there, make sure you drop in. The food is sensational. I just want to say a shout out there to Jason Gaines, the CEO, who is a remarkable bloke as well. So this week we are looking at how to increase our sales, how to improve our sales. We're at the end of the second quarter in Australia. We're at the end of our financial year tomorrow. And, we want to start to project the next financial year. We want to make sure that we're really kicking some goals. So we had the common sales mistakes that we had a few weeks ago. We had some great response from that. So we're going to take it to the next step and we're going to take it to the next level. Today we really look at and dig deeper again and really look at how we can really increase our sales, how we can increase that close rate, how we can hit the numbers, targets, revenues, profits, even our bonuses, how we can really make the most out of it in the next quarter. So let me just refresh this Facebook to make sure everything's working a-okay. So to kick off, the first one we want to look at now, the biggest thing, every time we engage with a client or a customer or a potential customer, we need to understand what motivates them to purchase any product or service. So here at Sales Coaching International, we call we use the terminology called the dominant buying motive. So we need to understand what is going to motivate that potential client to purchase your product and service. And you need to ask, your first, second, third level question. If you don't understand what I'm talking about then you can jump on to our website and you go to Where's York Sales and jump on the Elite Sales Club. We go through this, through our platform. We've got some educational programs to really teach this. But, so we need to understand what the dominant buying motive is for that particular client. Because at the end of the day, we're asking them to change, a decision pattern. We're asking them to change their mindset. So therefore, to come along to our product and service. And as sales agents, sometimes we forget to put ourselves into our client's shoes. So we need to understand what's going to motivate our client or our potential client to take a hold of our sale or whatever we're offering. So therefore, they can take a hold of our product or service. So we need to understand what their dominant buying motive, is it family, is it health, is it security, is it because of the fact that they're under pressure at work from their bosses, so they need to hit their targets, so they need your service. What is it that's going to really motivate them to take action today to be able to say yes to your product or service? So we need to understand what their dominant buying motive is. In a lot of cases, sales agents, they go through their discovery or they go through their question phases with their potential clients and they're going through the motions and they're not really listening to the client's answer. So they don't pick up on these things. But, without having the understanding of what really motivates your particular client, then you're not going to get the sales that you really want. You're not going to hit your targets each month. Sales are always going to be tough. You're always going to be grinding. So we want to make sales easy, and sales is not an easy game. But the better we know our process and the better we can interact with our clients and the more we can listen to our clients, the easier it will come. So the first one there is we've got to understand what the dominant buying motive is. We need to understand we need to understand where they're coming from, and we need to put ourselves in the client's shoes. Quick shout out, say thanks, Fez, you're online. I think Darshan's online. There's heaps of people on Instagram there. So just want to say thanks very much for joining. We've got a great episode here. So the second one is, how often do you get your sales agent explaining their service and product? Yet they explain their service and product the same way for every single person. So they can't customize, the features and benefits for the client that they're talking to. So they get into this robotic phase, and what it really becomes is the product then only meets every single person. It doesn't, so it meets, when they explain their product, excuse me, the product is then the same for every single person. And that doesn't make sense. We need to be able to listen to our clients through our discovery phase. We've got to find the dominant buying motive, and then we need to link the information that they told us into our product and service. So when we're explaining our product or service or whatever we're selling, the product or service kind of looks like we made it for them. So therefore they're going to take ownership of, your product through the sales process, and it's going to make the close far easier. So when we just go through the product and service the same way for every single client, we're bored. We're bored as batshit, and the client can see it, and our close rate's going to go down. We've bored them through our product or service because of what we're showing them probably doesn't even suit what they need because of the fact that we didn't listen to the discovery. So we need to make sure that we're always on in our sales process. We get the dominant buying motive. We then link the information correctly. So therefore the product or service that we're presenting kind of looks like the client made it on their behalf, and they're going to take that ownership, and it's going to make the close far easier. So we need to make sure we get the dominant buying motive, which is our first point today. And the second point is we need to make sure we link the information from our discovery phase into our product page correctly. The third thing is we don't overcome objections right. In a lot of cases, when I go around and do my training, and we're heading to New York, we actually leave tomorrow to go to New York, and we're going to do York Talk next week live from New York. So I'm actually really excited about that. However, when we get to the objection phase, there's a few things that happen. First of all, salespeople are predominantly scared of objections, which is crazy because if you don't get objections, you don't get sales. You need those concerns from your clients, and and I'm going to cover this a bit later. It comes back to trust, and that's one of the next points moving up. The thing is, when they get the objection, they actually overcome the objection in the wrong manner, which actually uncovers more objections, and they actually deteriorate their sales close and their process and their statistics. So they're not overcoming the objections correctly. The first step of overcoming objections is, first of all, we've got to listen. We've got to understand, what the objection is to start with. Because of the fact that what we do is quite a repetitive process, we think we know what the client's saying. So therefore, our mind, we're thinking 3 steps in the future. So we need to make sure we slow down our mind. We need to make sure we listen to our client, and we actually overcome the objections properly. We need to understand what the objection is. We need to make sure we listen and understand what the client is actually saying. So therefore, we can overcome it correctly. So the third one is, first of all, a lot of sales agents are scared to get them to start with. But then secondly, when they get the objections, they overcome them incorrectly, which actually that means they dig in the hole a bit deeper and make it harder to actually get that close and get that sale. The fourth one is, through the selling process, obviously you've got your clients saying, yeah, they can do it or they can't do it. And the clients are trying to sell us a story just like we're trying to sell them a story. But the weak-minded sales agent starts to believe the client's story, because we understand there's a buyer and seller in every single selling scenario. So we either sell them or they sell us. In a lot of cases, we buy their stories. We buy, we buy their bullshit, so to speak. So we need to understand, what, they're going to have their excuses and they're going to have their reasons why they can or can't do something. But in essence, buyers are liars, and we know that. It's socially acceptable when we go into any selling environment to actually tell a little white lie. And it's okay. Every time we go into, anytime we go into a store, and I want to go and buy a shirt, but the lovely retail assistant comes up, says, going to help you. We always say, what do we say? I'm just looking, Or we say we can't afford it, but in reality, we can afford it. We're not just looking. So it's okay, and it's socially acceptable to present these little lies. But then as sales agents, when we flip ourselves back into the selling shoes, we can't buy that. We can't listen to that. We need to go through and be mind strong, and we've got to go through our process, and we need to make sure we overcome those objections. We need to ask them to purchase, etc. So we still need to go through our selling process. Otherwise, our close rate is going to drop dramatically, and we're going to be sitting there wondering why we can't, close this product or service anymore. So we need to make sure that we don't buy what we call, we don't buy the client's bullshit, because like we said, it's okay for them to lie. You know, so we need to make sure we stay on path, we stay on our selling process. The next one is we don't build enough trust and rapport. You know, so if we want to really dominate and we really want to get our sales figures into the top 1% of what we do in our industry, we need to make sure we build massive trust and build massive rapport. You know, the way that the selling regime is at the moment, you know, it's all front end. We can't go and close like we used to close. We can't bang clients into our product and service anymore. You know, we need to make sure it's all about relationship selling. It's all about the trust and rapport at the front end of our presentation. So we've got to work so hard here, building that trust and building that rapport and building that connection so we have a long-term relationship with this client. You know, in a lot of cases, our sales agents don't build enough trust, they don't build enough rapport. You know, and they might get a sale, but then they don't get that repeat business, or they don't get the average transaction size where it needs to be. So we can't move on through our selling process until we really get that trust and we really get that rapport. You know, in a lot of cases, then, you know, sometimes we prejudge our clients, so therefore, you know, we jump into it too quickly. You know, we don't give it the time of day. So we need to make sure that we get that trust, get the rapport. We can't prejudge, and when we do that, we give every single person our 100%. And I guarantee you, if you take that lesson alone, every single time into a selling scenario, your numbers are going to go through the roof. So get that trust, get that rapport. Don't prejudge the client. Give them the 100% like you would every other person, and your numbers will go up. Your figures will definitely go up. The next one is, and it kind of comes into the trust and rapport, we need to make sure we don't start selling our product and service too early. You know, we have a sales process for a reason. You know, you get your discovery. Sometimes it can be 30 seconds. Sometimes that could take 3 days. Who knows? Depends on what you're selling. You know, we need to then go through and do our company structure, and that's where we get the trust from our organization. We then need to create the problem or agitate that problem, and then we go into selling our product and service and explaining what it does. But in a lot of cases, in our discovery phase, people, you know, sales agents start to sell their product and service then. And what it is, they're mixing up their steps, confusing the issue, and not following the process, which works, you know, so often. So what it means is your sales process is, your sales stats are going to decrease. You know, we have that process for a reason, and don't start selling too early. You know, you've got to get that trust and rapport before you can even get into your product and service. So don't start bringing it in too early, because what happens in a lot of cases, if I can't get that trust and rapport, what the sales agent does is they then jump straight into their product and service, and then they wonder why at the end they didn't get that sale. You've got to work harder at the front end, and then the product and service and the close will come a lot easier. And then the last one that I want to talk about today, and the reasons and how to really increase our stats and our numbers in this next quarter, is don't be fearful of the money. Here's the thing. If you do your selling process right and accurately every single time, when you get to the point where to ask them to purchase, that's actually really easy. So remember the time when you went through your processes perfect, you got that trust rapport, you know, you explained your product, you linked the information, you had that problem, and then the client was kind of asking you, so can I purchase? Here's my credit card, right? But then the time that you don't do that process right, it's really hard to ask for that money, right? So we need to make sure when we get that process right, it's easy to ask for the money. But stats show that 80% of sales agents don't actually ask for the order. So we need to make sure that we consistently, every single time, ask these clients to purchase. You know, we need to pull the contract out every single time. So therefore, you know, we give ourselves the best chance of securing that person or that client into our product and service. You know, so make sure we ask every single prospect to purchase. Now, remember, we're either going to gain a new client or we're going to learn. You know, so we need to understand why we didn't get it if we don't get it, or we're going to get that new client. So we're not losing by any means, but we need to ask the client to purchase. Otherwise, we actually lost because we never actually fulfilled our selling process. So to go through and recap what we talked about today, we want to enhance our numbers for this next quarter. You know, tomorrow's the last day of the month. Next quarter kicks off on Saturday. So we want to make sure we smash it out of the park. So the first one is, if we want to increase our sales, we need to make sure we get that dominant buying motive every single time. Understand why your client moves. What's going to motivate them to take on your product or service? Why are they going to change from this product and then purchase your product and service? You know, you need to get that dominant buying motive. So that's the first point we spoke about. The second one is we need to link that information. We need to get that information of what we spoke about in that discovery phase. We need to link it into that product. So we need to make sure that when we explain our product, we're using all their terminology. We're using their dominant buying motive. We're understanding what it is that's going to take a hold in our product and service, and how to present our features and our benefits when we're doing that. The next one is we need to make sure we overcome the objections, right? Let's make sure that we listen to them. Then let's make sure we actually overcome the objections, right? Instead of digging that hole deeper, like some people do, and actually making it harder for ourselves, right? We need to make sure we don't buy the client's story. You've got the buyer-seller dance, right? We've got our story, they've got their story. Someone's going to buy one story, So let's make sure that we don't buy into the client's bullshit, right? We then need to make sure that we build the trust and rapport. If we don't have that, we got no sale. So that's the first thing we need to do. We need to make sure that clients like us, because we know in any selling environment, clients buy us, and then they buy the product and service. The next thing is we can't start selling too quick. We've got the selling process for a reason. So don't start introducing your product and service because your client asked you one question. If you haven't done your steps, then don't get into that just yet. And then last one, don't be fearful of the money. Let's ask for that order every single time. So therefore we can either win or we can learn. If we don't actually ask for the order, you can't even use that as a stat. You may as well give that lead to someone else because they would have asked the order. So let's make sure that we ask for the order every single time. Just a quick shout out. Thanks to Ruth up there. Rob Hunter. Love your work, buddy. How's that Gold Coast going, mate? So here's the thing. New quarter starts on Saturday. Financial year is done here in Australia. Let's make sure we set our goals, we set our budgets, we set our targets. Let's make sure that we really smack it out of the park. And that's why we do York Talk. That's why we sit and we give you this advice. If you need some help or if you've got something that you want us to discuss, then make sure you send us a direct message here on Facebook. You can chuck in an email to us, send us what you're after, and we'll look after you there. We'll make sure that in the next few weeks, we'll cover one of your topics, so therefore you can get the help that's required. You can also flick us a phone call, jump on the website, which is wesyorksales.com, or you can jump on salescoachinginternational.com. All our details are there. Have a look at the Elite Sales Club. It's just absolute phenomenal, the Elite Sales Club. It's got all your different educational programs, and it's got everything from your basic selling, if you're just new into the industry, all the way through to advanced overcoming objections, how to master the art of closing, advanced closing strategies. So make sure you have a look at that. You get that through either website. So go to Wes York Sales and then have a jump onto the Elite Sales Club. If you want us to go through the platform, just flick us an email. I'll get one of the guys to give you a call, and we'll show you the demo and show you around it if you want your organisation to have it. And we can have that anywhere in the world. If you've got an organisation that has anywhere from, say, 1 staff all the way through to 10,000 staff, it doesn't matter. We can get you started on that, and your results are going to go through the roof. So the Elite Sales Club is an absolute phenomenal program that we're really proud of here at the Sales Coaching International. So next week we are in New York. So the man from Brisbane, Wes York, all the way from Brisbane, we're heading to New York, and we're going to have some interviews with some fantastic CEOs next week in New York. So we're really excited. So again, we're not sure what time York Talk's going to come, but we'll give you a bit of an introduction before it. But again, everyone have an absolute cracker week. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you share it, like it. We've got heaps of people here on Instagram Live. Want to appreciate it. I'll say thank you. Facebook Live again, thanks so much. Let's get to the 200,000 views real quick. And everyone have a great week, like we said. My name is Wes York. This is York Talk, everything sales and business. And everyone out there, go and grab those budgets, get your results, hit your targets, and look forward to speaking to you all next week in New York. Have a great one. Bye now.